Hello and welcome back to Let's Learn Photoshop, a short series where we learn the essential components of using Photoshop as your primary photo editor. And today we're taking a look at the 5 types of layers. So let's get into it. In our last video, we explored the primacy of layers, how they're the whole, the end-all be-all of how Photoshop works. But there are actually types of layers, and we really want to get into understanding exactly what types of layers there are and then how we can be creative using them. So let's take a look at the 5 types of layers. And the first one is the most obvious, it is the most basic, it is what we refer to as a pixel layer. A pixel layer is very simple. It is made out of pixels. If I was to zoom in on this image and we're looking at a background layer and the background layer is a picture and we zoom into it, Command or Control and the plus symbol, we can see that it is made out of individual dots of color. And those, of course, are pixels, which, in case you didn't know, is actually short for picture element. Fun little fact. Anyway, we know this is made out of dots of color, and just like pointillism in painting, if we look at them from a step back, they can form an image. And that is pixels and pixel layers. There is a little bit more to it. There's kind of a subsection of pixel layers. For instance, this is the background layer. The background layer actually has a couple interesting properties to it. I can't change its name. If I double click the name, it just says, do you want to create a new layer? It doesn't let me do some types of edits. I can't turn off seeing the background layer unless I have another layer above it, and then I can turn off seeing all layers. And here's another interesting property for you. If I take layer 1, and I just made a copy of the background layer, and I did that by pressing Command or Control J. And let's say I turn off viewing the background layer. So I'm just looking at this duplicate. And then I come over here and I find the eraser. All right, so this erases pixels, right? And if I erase pixels, what do I see? Well, I see through this layer and I just see the canvas behind. That little checkerboard pattern is the Photoshop symbol for nothingness. There's nothing here. And when I erase pixels, and there's nothing that I can see behind it, we expect to see nothingness, right? Well, here's something that's a little interesting for you. I now have turned off viewing this top layer, and I'm looking only at the background. I'm gonna grab make sure I highlight the background layer, grab my eraser, and what I'm going to do is erase from here. Now watch this. I erase and I get this weird pink color. Why? Well, if I take a look at my foreground and background colors, the background is this salmon pink color from something I was doing before. So if you erase the background, behind it is the background color. So there's a couple interesting properties. You can't move the background layer, you can't rename it. Behind it's the background color itself. And for those and some other reasons, we tend to not edit the background layer. When we start working with an image, we tend to many times make a copy of the background layer and do any work on this so we can always come back to the background layer if need be. The next type of layer you've seen in previous videos, and that is an adjustment. This is part of the genius of Photoshop, but if I come to my adjustments and I pick anything, color vibrance, curves, hue and saturation, let's go and grab hue and saturation. This is its own layer, all right? So if I was to bump the saturation, this is a layer that says everything below it, we're going to boost the saturation. We're going to increase the depth of the color. And why is this so important? It's so important because adjustments, right, are not permanently changing the pixel layer behind it. I can always turn off seeing this layer and I'm fine. By the way, this is why when we're learning Photoshop, we really don't recommend coming up and saying, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come to Image, Adjustments, and I'm going to come to Hue and Saturation, and I'm going to adjust it. Because if I do that, I have baked the edit into the pixel layer, and I can't go back and change that value. I can certainly undo what I did, but I can't change its value. However, with an adjustment layer, if you click on the layer and look at its properties, or just double click on it. You'll bring up its properties and I can change the value later on if I don't like what I did. So there are very, very few times when we actually apply an adjustment by coming up to image adjustments and then adding them here, something we might get into in more intermediate videos, but it's not something we do. We apply adjustments as their own layers, and there's yet even more reasons why we do so. We also like to apply adjustments as their own layers because layers have properties. Very specifically, and we're going to get into this more in later videos, layers, let's say that I took these properties and let's say that I took my saturation all the way down, right, making it effectively grayscale. If I took my opacity of the layer and dropped it, we would see through the layer, meaning now I'm bringing the color back, right? Another property of a layer, layers have masks, meaning that if I was to paint with black as the foreground color, have a brush tool, which you can get to by just clicking on the brush tool or B on the keyboard, and I click on the mask. Well, if I paint black onto a mask, then I don't see that portion of the layer, and now I can see the color image behind it. So layers have opacity, layers have masks, layers have blend modes, something we'll get into very soon on this channel, and they have their own layer style dialog box. Double click the gray area of a layer, you'll bring up the layer style box, and I could apply this particular layer depending on the brightness of the underlying layer itself. So I could take this effect away from the dark regions, and now I'd be able to see color in the darker regions of the image. Again, these are things we're going to get into in other videos, but critically, adjustments being their own layers allows that adjustment to be applied only a little bit to let us see through it, and for the layer to have its own properties. And that makes your adjustments really flexible in Photoshop. For our next two examples, I'm just going to use this blank document, but the next two types of layers are pretty simple. One of them is text. So we have a text tool right here. If I click on it, right, to make sure I have a text cursor tool, click anywhere, and then I just type something. It creates not just any layer, but a layer that has this big T for text. If I double click that, then I'll be able to highlight the text. I can change its size. I can do anything else that I want with it. Now, one thing you may have noticed, if I take a look at an adjustment layer, for instance, let me bring one in here, such as a curves adjustment layer. The curves adjustment layer comes in with its own mask already. The text, well, it doesn't have a mask automatically. We can add one. It's at the bottom, it's the little rectangle with the circle cut out. If we click on that, it adds a mask to whatever layer we have. So yes, all layers can have masks, but some layers don't come in with masks. Texts and the next type of layer are like that. But a text is its own type of layer. We can move it, we can change its properties. It is its own layer. The next type of layer is a shape layer. If I come over to the shape tool over here, I can make a rectangle, an ellipse, a triangle. Let's make a rectangle. And I can just draw whatever I want, and it's going to create a rectangle. If I take a look at its properties, I could change its fill, I could change the stroke, which is the outline, and other properties to it. But you'll notice that the symbol itself, right, the text, the layer has this little symbol right here that says, hey, this is a shape layer. If I take the text tool, click, and I type something, this has a symbol with that T that says this is a text layer. An adjustment layer, let's bring in levels this time. Oops, I need to confirm the size. If I bring in an adjustment layer, every different adjustment layer has its own symbol that indicates which type of adjustment it is. So you'll notice that the layer itself over here in the layers panel has some symbol that indicates what type of a layer it is. And that's something that you can search, by the way. Up at the top, you'll see that I can search by the kind of layer that I have. So if I take a look for adjustment layers, only this one shows up. If I take a look for, if I click on the text, it's looking now, you'll see for adjustments and text, both of them show up. If I take away the adjustment, I only see the text, right? If I turn off any individual one, I see all of them. If I look for a shape base, then I will find only my rectangular layer. So I can search my layers by what kind they are. I could also search by almost anything else if I wanted to, but it defaults to searching by what type of layer. And that's why for these symbols, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So pixel layers, adjustment layers, text layers, shape layers. The last one is what's known as a smart object. So let's get into that. So we're back looking at this image. I want to talk about smart objects. Smart objects are a little bit difficult to really visualize what they are. I want to show you a couple concepts that help you really understand what they are and when and how we use them. But the idea is to not look at the actual layer, but to look more like at a preview of the layer itself. Now, why do we do that? We do it because there are some types of edits that are by their nature destructive. Some types of things that we do that by their nature are destructive to the pixels. That means permanently changing, right? So for instance, we discussed this just a few minutes ago, but if I was to come to image adjustments, do a curves adjustment and brighten this, that edit is baked into the pixels of this layer. I can't go back right now and change that value, right? And we said that that was a bad thing. And fortunately, having an adjustment as its own layer was a way to do that type of an edit and then change the value later on, right? Just like in that example there. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this. Okay. But there are some types of edits that by their nature change pixels. There are two, in fact. The first one is when you apply filters, and the second one is when you resize. Okay, so for instance, let me show you this. There's no way to bring back something that's lost in either of those two situations. I'm going to turn off seeing the background layer. I'm only seeing this layer. And now I'm going to resize it. Command or Control T. And what I'm going to do is, actually, let's not deform it like that. I'm going to just bring this in, make it really small. I'm going to confirm. When you shrink the size of a pixel layer in Photoshop and confirm it, it throws away any unnecessary pixels. But now if I come to bring this back and I confirm, it's incredibly pixelated, and I can prove it to you, right? So this is the top layer, turn it off, whoa, way sharper. Top layer, background layer. So we've lost all of those pixels, right? And that's just the nature of resizing an image. Wouldn't it be great if there were a way to resize and not lose anything? Well, there is. There are two ways to transform any layer, or in fact a group, into a smart object. Okay, two ways. They do the exact same thing. I can right click the gray area here, and then I can go to Convert to Smart Objects. Or I can have this layer selected, go to Filter, and really the very first permanent thing in the Filters menu says Convert for Smart Filters. These two options do the exact same thing. The Gaussian blur is the most recent filter that I used in a different edit that I was doing. This is the first permanent thing. They do the exact same thing. Now watch, there's no symbol on this layer. Click Convert for Smart Filters, and there is. This symbol, which is the same as this symbol here, this is the symbol for it being a smart object, which means we're not looking at the actual layer anymore. We're looking at a preview or a projection of it, all right? So I can take this, turn off seeing the background layer. I'm going to do the exact same thing as before. Command or Control T. I'm going to transform it, shrink it down. I'm going to confirm and go, oh, I don't like that. Make it bigger again. Command or Control T. Make it larger. Back to the top. Confirm. And it looks fine. No difference between the top or the background layer. And the reason why is that we did not change the actual layer. We didn't. We just resized our projection, and so we can always bring back an original value. This is the same reason why we need a smart object when we apply a filter. So I've got layer 1. I'm going to turn it into a smart object. Right click, convert to smart object. You could also go to filter, convert for smart filters. By the way, you'll notice how when I make this into a smart object here, convert for smart filters is grayed out because that feature's already been done, right? So I've got one of these layers that is a smart object, but I'm going to make one that's not. I'm going to turn off the smart object. So here I have a background copy. All right, so just a regular pixel layer. Above it, turned off, is the smart object, but we can't view it right now. And I'm going to apply a filter. Come up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And I'm just going to apply some amount of blur. Let's say 9.7 pixels of blur, that's fine. Now I look at it and go, oh, I wish I could change that blur amount. Well, there's no way to do that. There's nothing here. I could come back up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, but all I could do is add blur from that point. If I take this all the way down, I come back to the original amount of blur that I had. Well, that's not very good. That's not very useful. Instead, let's apply that blur to a smart object. So with the smart object selected, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, same thing, 9.7 pixels, but now the smart filter shows up like this and Gaussian blur shows up here. And so if I double click on this, hey, you could change the amount of blur, right? There's less, there's more, whatever you want. And in fact, if I right click Gaussian blur and I delete the smart filter, I can get rid of it all together. To kind of give you an idea of what's going on, I want to do a different demonstration. So when we look at a smart object, we are looking at a projection of another document or another layer really, right? That's not here. And that's why we can change the values later. And if I was to copy and paste or make duplicates of a smart object, they are all the same object. So this is a little demonstration I like to do in order to demonstrate that. So I'm going to come to color and I'm just going to choose kind of a nice yellow, let's say, as my foreground color. And then I'm going to grab an ellipse tool. By the way, if you hold shift while making a shape, you'll conform it to a perfect circle or a perfect rectangle. I'm going to make a perfect circle here. There it is. And so now I have a circle. That's it. It's right here. And I know that it is a shape layer because the symbol says shape layer. But I'm going to turn this into a smart object. So filter, convert for smart filters. And now it is its own smart object. And I'm going to duplicate it at this point. Now please notice the order of operations. I made it into a smart object and then I duplicated it, right? Command or Control J. I'm going to do that twice. And I'm going to grab this one, move it to there. I'm going to grab this one, move it to here. They were duplicated off of the original, which means that these are all the same object again and again and again. It's the same object 3 times. If you want to look at an actual smart object, look at the actual root, the actual layer, double click it, it opens it up as its own document. And here I could actually change it. So I'm going to press D to default the foreground and background color. And then I'm going to grab a brush tool, B for brush. I'm going to shrink it in size. And just for the fun of it, I'm going to make a smiley face. Okay, so now I'm going to save this. That is a critical step for this. Command or Control S saves. This is now the most recent version of this smart object. And if I come back here, they are all smiley faces and they are the same smiley face. So if you wanted to populate trees, right, you could have a group of trees that are copies of the same smart object. But if you change one of them, you change all of them. This is also how a lot of mock-up designs are done and things like that. So smart objects have a lot of uses. In our original use for photo editing, we apply smart objects when we are using filters or we are resizing something, because those are 2 edits that have to change pixels. And so we like to apply them to smart objects. And those are the 5 different types of layers. Anyway, if you want to master Lightroom from beginning to end and understand all of the facets of how we use it and work with it as our daily photo editing driver, well, I have an 8-hour course on Udemy. I'll put links to it in the description, of course, but it covers everything you need to know to become incredibly proficient with Lightroom Classic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.